Everyone's talking about how the supply chain is broken, but no one's pointing out any kind of solution to it. And the reason for that is because fundamentally, the thinking around how we approach food safety is not effective. Systems thinking is an approach that looks at problems not as individual elements or components or parts. They look at them as systems that are influenced and that influence other systems. This is most evident in the food that we eat. Any plant that we harvest exists in an ecosystem that influences it. You have water quality and frequency. You have soil nutrient. You have the microbes that are within that. You have the agricultural practices. You have the handling and distribution of that. By the time you get that vegetable, it nourishes or poisons you based on the system that it has been grown in. When we look at specific sectors, they exist as their own standalone ecosystem. So agriculture exists as a system that is influenced by things like farming practices or government regulation. But it also exists in the larger continuum that is the supply chain. It interacts with other departments in other industries like transportation or warehousing. All these things influence that system. You can think of the entire supply chain continuum kind of like a relay race, where one sector will hand off the baton to the next sector. But in that gap where the baton is being passed, there are risks and liabilities. Where does one's responsibility end and the next sectors begin? So by not seeing them as systems, we do ourselves a disservice in increasing liabilities and risks for the end consumer and for ourselves as a business. Now, some companies already intuitively use principles of systems thinking. They understand the domino effect that can happen where one small mistake can be amplified and magnified, ultimately affecting consumer safety. The problem, though, is that they don't call it systems thinking. And by not explicitly stating it, it's not codified. It's not part of your processes and procedures. And what's more is that it neglects the tools that have been tested by science for decades. For example, causal loops pictured here, even though it looks complex, all this does is help you visualize for stakeholders how different departments influence and are influenced by other departments. So here's what I'm proposing. I want to create a training program that consists of 3 elements. The first element is just awareness. We're going to have some kind of series of videos or an educational film. Then we move into the online training, which is more granular, and then followed up by some consultative support that's ongoing. So that can be very, very pinpointed in what you need. The concept for the story is to follow a product's journey from farm to fork. We have a 5 to 7 module video series that covers how systems thinking applies to each individual sector and then ties it together under the umbrella that is the supply chain. Now, if you're a company that just is in one of these sectors, like you're just agriculture or you're just distribution, you can watch the 10 to 12 minute module and that's it. You have a clear understanding of how it works and how to implement within your own organization. But you may be a company that's a bit larger and you have multiple sectors that you embrace. If you're an Amazon or a Walmart, you're doing multiple of these. You have multiple sectors that are at play. I think bread is probably the easiest metaphor or symbol to use because it's so culturally significant to us. It has a timeless quality. We've dealt with bread since the dawn of civilization. It helps us visualize how these different departments are impacted. There's also some emotional weight there that gets us connected to the material and makes it relevant to our lives. It makes it inspiring. This is ideal for the C-suite. We want to get them on board. We want to get them to adopt this thinking because that will cascade to different departments that actually need to take more granular training. The second stage is the online training, or we'll have some kind of form if online isn't available to you. But the beautiful thing about systems thinking is that it is modular. There was one organization in Southern California that was dealing with a very high rate of amputations in diabetic patients, like 65%. And they found through systems thinking that it was because patients were not getting to their meetings. So they created a shuttle service to get them there. And that lowered the amputations to less than 1%. So it doesn't really matter what your industry is, it doesn't matter like what your specific department is, you can plug and play anything into it and it will give you results. It's kind of like a SMART goal. It doesn't matter what the goal is, as long as you subscribe to the framework, it will solve your challenge. You may have concerns about blockchain. You may have concerns around AI integration. You may have concerns around GMPs or pathogens that are developing. All that is accessible and available to put into systems thinking and spit out a solid solution for you. Once you get to the end of that challenge and you've solved that problem, you can use it again to solve the next problem. It's really a beautiful, powerful tool that goes grossly underutilized. So here's what I need from you. Point blank, what I need help with is I want a company or a series of companies to fund the development of this program. And I want them to use it because this is going to change their lives. I have a timeline that I want to start developing this by the beginning of Q1, so in a month, to start doing development and finish that development. That means the concept for the educational videos, that means the curriculum for the learning, all that done by the end of Q1. Q2 is production to get all those assets done based on the feedback and what the company aspirations are. If you have specific challenges you want included and you feel comfortable sharing those, I will put them in the training. Q3 is where you implement these procedures into your organization and you will immediately start seeing results, to the point where in Q4, I will have evaluation and assessment tools to not only validate that the training was working, but also to give you clear direction for what is next. The benefits to you are manifold. You not only have very little downtime because the training is happening on the floor. It's not something I want to pull people out of the plant and put them in a room with a computer and say, all right, go ahead. I want them to be able to apply it in real time. So the granular training is a little bit light in terms of the curriculum because all of the work is done in the field. That's a lot of what systems thinking is. It's applying critical thinking creatively. And we're teaching you and your team how to do that. There's faster implementation for your procedures. You will get things done sooner. The causal loop that I showed you earlier was actually for shortening the NSF certification window from 18 months to 4 months. You don't have to necessarily change your business operations. You just need to change how they're thought about and how they integrate with other departments. As a supporter and an investor, you get full access to the training in perpetuity. So this will save you hundreds of thousands of dollars in licensing, and you get to use this for any kind of problem that surfaces. And finally, you get alignment between your stakeholders and the employees. You run a much tighter ship that all moves in unison. There's no differentiation, there's no disagreements because everyone understands what the ultimate goal is of the company. Thanks so much for watching this. I hope you can see the immediate value that this can bring to your organization. If you want to get involved, there's no time to waste. Let's jump on a call, chat about the particulars, and move forward in building something monumental, not just for our own businesses, but for the food industry as a whole.